This is the refreshed Toyota CHR. What's changed? Let's find out. Toyota showed off the CHR concept at car shows since 2014. It featured bold design, especially for a brand specializing in boring compact runabouts. The production CHR debuted in 2016 and surprised the public because a lot of the design cues were carried over from the concept model. Okay, so now there is an extra pair of doors, but generally the CHR looks cool. Here, I'd like to mention my late 2016 CHR review had, at the time of writing this script, almost 2 million views, making it by far my most watched review, for which I thank you and the YouTube algorithm. If you've watched it, drop me a comment why this particular review. Was it the timing, the thumbnail, or maybe you were interested in the CHR? I want to know because my next most popular video had only 654,000 views. Back to the CHR, which, depending on the source, stands for Compact Hybrid Revolution or Coupe High Rider. At first glance, Toyota's compact, subcompact if you live in the US, crossover looks like the Nissan Juke. At launch, the CHR was much larger than the first generation Juke, but the second generation of Nissan's funky crossover is almost as big as the CHR. Toyota CHR is smaller than the Lexus UX, with which it shares its platform, but it has a larger boot than its premium sibling. Depending on the powertrain, the CHR boot volume is between 358 and 377 liters. The 2-liter hybrid has the former, and that's including storage under the floor. Above the floor, there is about 330 liters. There are 2 shopping bag hooks, but too close to the floor to be really usable. They make more sense in versions with a deeper boot. In the back, nothing has changed. I'm 175 centimeters tall, and sitting behind the seat set to my driving position, I have about 8 centimeters legroom and 4 centimeters headroom. Not bad. There is no armrest, no charging ports, no air vents. However, cup holders in the doors can probably hold an XL soft drink cup. This interesting shape also means high window line and little light getting in. With the window ending around the passenger's nose, it's even worse than in the Renault Captur, where I made fun of passengers being hidden from the outside world, like in a limousine. The doors cover the sills. Despite this being a crossover, the ground clearance is just 15 centimeters, and the seat is relatively high, making it getting in and out easier for more mature drivers. At first glance, nothing has changed, but the devil is in the details. The biggest change is the infotainment system, where we now get physical buttons and a couple of knobs like in the Toyota RAV4 or the Corolla. And lo and behold, we finally have Android Auto. Yes, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are standard. Regardless of the trim, Toyota is ahead of BMW, which will offer Android Auto in June 2020 and only in wireless form, which works only on several phones anyway. And one more thing that I need to point out. In the Toyota RAV4 video, I complained that on the home screen, the map orientation is always north up, and you can't change it. You had to go into the map as such, and then you could have orientation towards where you were driving, for example, but on the home screen it was always north up. So Toyota changed it, and I noticed it literally driving to the set today in the morning, that the map is actually turning with me, so it's orientation towards where I'm going. And you know, it's a small change, but it makes the map so much more usable. In the CHR, the driver and the front passenger should be comfortable. They have cup holders on the center console, as well as place for water bottles in the door bins. There is only one USB port, but a 12-volt socket is under the armrest. The glove box is small and placed rather low. The seats are comfortable. Here, the driver's seat has electric adjustment, but without memory function. That's just useless. There is also dual automatic climate control, as well as heated seats and heated steering wheel. The instrument cluster remained unchanged, the dials are still analog, and between them is a small display showing basic functions of the onboard computer. Everything can be operated using buttons on the steering wheel, except for the cruise control, which is operated with a joystick behind the steering wheel. However, unlike in the French cars, here the stock is not obstructed by the steering wheel spoke. I don't have to learn it by heart, I can see what's written on it. Thank you. In late 2016, I reviewed the CHR with a 1.2-liter 116 horsepower turbo petrol engine. The other option was a 1.8-liter 122 horsepower hybrid. Both engine options were underpowered for the CHR because the steering and the chassis, they're just so well sorted they encourage enthusiastic driving. After the facelift, there is now a more powerful hybrid with a 2-liter engine. ...184 horsepower, 8.2 seconds from 0 to 100 km per hour, and average fuel consumption of 5.3 liters per 100 km WLTP is not too shabby. Interestingly enough, I recorded this review in mid-March. On the first day it was over 10 degrees Celsius and I managed to get the fuel consumption down to just 4.3 liters per 100 kilometers. On the other day it was around 0 and the fuel consumption jumped to more than 5 liters. However, under normal circumstances, getting 5 combined is easy peasy. Now, about this enthusiastic driving, here I'd like to point out that the following is just purely theoretical. I'm aware the CHR is not a sports car, but I want to paint a picture of the potential this car has. I'll start with the gearbox. As many viewers pointed out to me, it's not just a CVT, it's an eCVT. So it's still a continuously variable transmission, but instead of a pulley, it uses a planetary setup with electronic control. From the driver's point of view, under hard acceleration, revs don't match the speed, and it makes it harder to adjust your path around the corner. In a manual gearbox or with a double clutch transmission, the driver's foot is, figuratively speaking, tied to the throttle. It's possible to adjust your path around the corner, not just with steering inputs, but also with throttle. In case of CVT, it's probably possible to program a similar reaction, especially in sport mode, but Toyota engineers rightly assumed the CHR is not a car that's going to be used for street racing, at least not yet. Perhaps we will get a GR version sometime in the future, or maybe Lexus will make a UXF. Well, one can always hope. Anyway, I just wanted to make a point that the CHR feels far more capable than the engineers allowed it to be. There is still a lot left in the chassis and in the steering, both of which are just great. There's so much potential just waiting to be unleashed. And what about daily driving the CHR? Soundproofing is decent, at least till about 120 km per hour. There are these small elements protruding from the doors. They are supposed to split the air before it hits the wing mirrors, thus reducing wind noise. However, above 120 km per hour, it does get noisy inside. The seats are comfortable even during long journeys, but the CHR had and still has terrible visibility. Reversing camera is standard regardless of the trim, and rightly so, because without it, it would not be safe to reverse out of a parking spot. Reverse cross-traffic alert with emergency braking is part of a technology package for a mid-level trim or standard for the highest trim levels. Definitely worth considering. As standard, regardless of the trim, the CHR gets adaptive cruise control, heated wing mirrors, LED headlights, traffic sign recognition, which works regardless of Android Auto, lane assist, and collision warning with pedestrian detection. prices of the Toyota CHR start at €26,000 for a 1.2-litre petrol with a manual gearbox. The cheapest, 122 horsepower, costs 29 grand, but you're probably saving thanks to some local eco-incentives. At least I hope you are. In some markets, the 1.2-litre petrol with CVT and all-wheel drive may be available. This car is a top-spec Orange Edition, available only with the most powerful hybrid powertrain for around €38,000. Toyota gave the CHR a very mild facelift based on the principle that if something works, then why change it? If someone wanted smartphone navigation, they have it as standard. And if someone wanted more power, there is now the 184 horsepower hybrid option. The CHR is still a pleasant crossover, which you will never lose in the parking lot unless there is a Nissan Juke club meet. And how do you like the refreshed Toyota CHR? Is it up your alley or you want something more conservative? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like my sarcastic, down-to-earth and possibly mildly amusing car videos, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, share, turn on notifications, etc, etc. New reviews every Friday. Thanks for watching and I will see you in the next one.